All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Workbench, your resource rich weekly podcast and newsletter for local service entrepreneurs. As always, the Workbench is brought to you by Lead Truffle, the number one speed to lead system for local service businesses. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a fellow Austinite, if that's the term. I'm still pretty new here, Luke
Yeah.
Eastman. He runs Mounted ATX, which specializes mostly in TV mounting, and then they do some general other work, curtains, shelving, etc. Basically, hanging stuff on your walls is my understanding, but TVs probably being the leading business line there. I'm excited to dive into his experience working in big tech. I think you mentioned Google, Luke, and then kind of
Yeah.
transitioning to local service business. So, yeah, excited to have you on, man. If, yeah, for people that may not be familiar with you or Mounted ATX, do you mind telling folks a little bit about you personally and the business that you run?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So I started Mounted ATX a couple years back. Got laid off from Google, like our whole team, recruiting team, as AI and automation kind of steps in. Yeah, kind of woke up one morning to an email that said, you don't work here anymore. Best of luck. So, I'd been laid off during COVID as well. And I kind of got on TaskRabbit and started doing TV mounting as like a side gig till I figured out the next move. And after the second layoff and trying to get back into corporate world and all that, and just not having a lot of success with the job market the way it was, I finally just said, screw it, I'm just going to do my own thing. And TV mounting was something I already knew how to do. And I have like kind of a background in the trades with my parents, running a roofing company. So I kind of grew up in all that. So it just seemed like a good fit. And here we are. Yeah. A couple years later.
Awesome. So I think TV mounting is an interesting business model. We have some customers for Lead Truffle that do it. It seems like it's relatively low barrier to entry compared to something like
Yeah.
HVAC or electric, where you need a license. It seems like it would be flooded on the low end with guys with a tool bag. I think I'm sure you have some specialized tools, but I think I have most of the
Yeah.
tools in my very shitty soft tool bag to hang a
Yeah.
TV. So just talk to me a little bit about like why TV mounting, getting into that specific service, what attracted you, and then some of the challenges that you faced early on in getting that going.
Yeah. I mean, I think that low barrier to entry is part of the reason I got into it and having my background. I mean, like I could train a monkey to mount a TV and like, it's not hard. But I think that because there are a lot of people who just it's a guy with a tool bag and not a proper website or someone to answer the phones and all that, it does create kind of like this weird competitive advantage where if you do have your act together and you do communicate well and you have all these systems in place, because there's so many people that just don't do it well, I think that there's kind of like this unmet need in the marketplace. And when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, like what would be good businesses? And this is low, mostly low liability, not, low skill. I mean, you learn things on how to do it better and more complicated stuff as you go. But there just wasn't a lot of keyword competition on Google. Like, so that was another big motivator. And I did some competitive research and it was just kind of like, okay, there's definitely like a need for this. And I found that people are willing to pay more. There's like this weird gap. So you have the people who just mount TVs. That's like the chuck in the truck kind of guy. And then you have like the high end home theater, and there's just not really anything in between. So, yeah, I'm just trying to kind of capitalize on that. And then the other thing is that most of the guys that do TVs, they don't do other stuff. And so somebody moves
Yeah.
in a new apartment, a new home, and they want curtains and all this other stuff. And we can just kind of like fill that entire gap. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Talk to us a little bit about kind of those early days. How'd you go about getting your first couple jobs? What were some of those learnings? Just those early starting and transitioning from big tech, which is, a pretty big 180 career wise. What was those first couple jobs like for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I grew up in the trades,
Yeah.
worked at my parents' roofing company. So as far as like the technical and like the skill side of it, it was easy. And then having tech background, like I've always kind of been a tech nerd. My parents, I remember they got like their first like 486 Pentium, like early 90s. And I was just like, you know, all about that. And so I think that, at first, honestly, I just started on TaskRabbit. And
Hmm.
I mean, now knowing what I know about TaskRabbit, I don't think I would ever hire someone off of there, but there was enough people who did, and they started hiring me back again. And I put up the website July of 23. And honestly, like I wasn't really taking it super seriously then. I just figured like, let's get the website up, let Google kind of index it and do its thing. I was thinking I would do that as like a side gig and a fallback if I ever got laid off again. And then calls started coming in off the website again, like low keyword competition, like not a lot of people really doing it or doing it well. And yeah, it just kind of grew. And then I got a lot of referrals. I don't do any paid advertising. It's mostly organic search. And then I started going out to the leasing offices here. Like I did some research. There's like 850 apartment buildings within a 10-mile radius of where I lived. And so making up some simple flyers, handing them out, asking them to put them in their leasing packets when new tenants come, and throw like a $5 Starbucks card as a thank you for hooking me up with some jobs. And that's kind of where it came from. And then as I got going, I hired a professional company to do my website that launched New Year's 8 of this year. And that, it boosted up my SEO. And now 75% of my leads come from organic Google search. And then the rest is a little bit from chat GPT that's starting to grow. And then for roles and leasing offices. I did some work down in, I don't know if you're familiar with Easton Park, and they're like really big on neighborhood Facebook groups. And someone just said, hey, this guy did a really good job. Word spread. And now I've done like $30,000 in that one neighborhood alone
Wow.
this year. So like that's been like, that's been huge. Yeah, just kind of, I don't know, just figuring it out as you go. I mean, I think the analogy of like building the plane as we're flying it kind of fits for a lot of us who are starting this kind of thing. And yeah, it's kind of grown over time.
You mentioned that when you first started, like, and there's just like kind of lower end of the market with no website, not some of those basic digital best practices in place. What have been sort of the main outside of the website? What have been some of those digital marketing or digital footprint items that you found have really driven a nice ROI for the business and other
Uh,
technology as well, whether it's CRM, whatever it may be?
yeah, I mean, on the marketing side, automating reviews, like that has been the best investment that I've made. Like I've got 180 something reviews, and most of those came in like the last 18 months.
Wow.
And it just keeps like snowballing, like the more I get. So I really push that. I mention it like when someone books a job, I have an automation. So I use Jobber
Hmm.
for my CRM. And then I use Zapier, Open Phone, and a couple, like my tech stack is pretty, pretty robust. But anything I can automate, anytime I can have like a touch point in communication with the customer, just like kind of let them know what to expect. So like an email gets automated that sends out to them. There's like a little video and just kind of explains like this is what to expect. It goes over, scheduling reminders, how payment will work. I even let them know like, hey, customers have asked for, a way to tip, but like it's never expected, always appreciated. Don't feel obligated. Like I just want to let you know up front, like you're gonna see that, so you're not taken off guard and feel like, you know, where's this coming from? I don't know. Like I don't like that when I go to like a grocery store here in Austin. It's like, do you want a tip? I'm like, come on, like it's gotten a little out of control. But some people have asked for it. It's like there's that, and then that email even says like you're going to get a review request. That really helps me out. So yeah, just kind of leveraging Jobber, Zapier, all these different tech platforms, and then using that strategically to just communicate as much as possible. Like I even have the tracking on my truck. So like when I'm on my way, Jobber sends the on the way text. They can click on a link and track me on the map and all that. And, just kind of like the whole customer experience that leads to that way. When I do ask for the review, they're like totally all about it. And yeah, it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Love it. In terms of like hiring and labor, most of the folks I talk to, that is one of the most challenging parts of a local service business is hiring
Yeah.
reliable talent who's is going to do a good job consistently over time. Is it just you? Have you had to hire? How's hiring been? What's that team growth piece look like?
Yeah. I haven't hired any installers yet. I've got a couple people that I 1099 for when I've got like a bigger job, like a really heavy TV. Just word of mouth, friends in the communities I'm involved here in Austin. The big one was hiring a VA. So I was
Mm,
doing everything and I had researched it like January of this year and I just wasn't ready. Um, and then like beginning of July, I finally just kind of honestly had like a bit of a breakdown. I was like, I cannot do all of this. Like, this is insane.
yeah.
It's affecting my mental health, my physical health, all of that. And so I actually reached out to an agency and we had a meeting on July 4th and hired someone like that day. So I kind of joked that like that's my Independence Day from like admin work. But
You're getting a lot of work
that's
done on
been
federal holidays, 4th of July, New Year's Day.
yeah, totally. But that's been like the biggest thing for me and way that I've been able to like scale this
Yeah.
business, and he more than pays for himself. Yeah, that's kind of working that. And then one of the goals for next year is to hire at least one installer. Kind of take it from there.
Yeah, and then in terms of scale, I think that lifestyle business is a little bit of a weird word. I feel like people say it in a sort of patronizing way, like a VC back home. Oh, you're building a lifestyle, but it's like no. I mean, if you could build really all that matters is after tax dollars in your bank account. If you can build a business that brings in a good amount of money, and you're chilling and like there's no problem with that. But when you think about scale for Mount ATX, is it something where you're kind of good where you are and just want to be the best in your area? Is it franchising? Is it dominating Austin? Have you given much thought to that? And if so, where's your head at as an entrepreneur around potentially scaling this out?
Yeah, I've taken this really slow and methodical on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and I've set up my business structure and everything with the intention that I will not be out doing installs like a year from now. I think, yeah, I want to expand and have like one north, one south Austin, take it slow, not get ahead of myself. But I think that there's other markets here like San Antonio. Yeah, so I've got like some other domains I've registered to, if I ever need to expand, they're a bit more general. Um, but if it works out, I don't think I would want to do, I don't know if I want to do franchising. I haven't really thought about that, but I really like Boise, Idaho, and I used to live in San Diego. And so if I could have an excuse to eventually have a property in both of those, that's also a tax write-off, that would be really cool. And they're also, you know, kind of somewhat similar in Austin to some ways. There's like a tech scene kind of bubbling up in Boise that would be, people have money and not enough time and maybe not like the tools or know how to do this kind of stuff. And I did, again, TaskRabbit in San Diego, and I saw there was a big need there, and I love being out there. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I think right now, expanding this general area around Austin, San Antonio, and eventually, if it works out, I would love to have something in Boise and San Diego, so I can go visit more often.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Luke, for folks that want to connect with you personally, follow your story, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever that may be, or even check out the business. What's the best way for folks to find you online?
Yeah, haven't really built out the social yet. That's something that's on the docket for the next couple months. Just
Yeah,
kind of getting around to it. But best way is the website. So it's mount-it-atx.com. Or if you Google that, I should be, Mount It ATX. I should be top of the search results
yeah,
there. But
yeah.
yeah, it's probably the best way to contact me.
Cool, Luke, man, appreciate it. Hopefully, see you around Austin, and yeah, appreciate you coming on and sharing your story here with the Workbench.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.